Alrighty, welcome to the episode 4 of the All Aussie Rules podcast. As you can see, we've got video this time. We're stepping up. We're trying to improve. Hopefully each episode keeps getting better, bigger and better. First episode also going onto YouTube. We're going to continue uploading to Spotify. We'll try and cover some more branches as we progress. But for now, episode 4, let's do it. So, this is the wrap-up of opening round. First week of footy officially back. We had pre-season, that went well. And now the real stuff has officially started. The AFL will say it was a major success because they had bums on seats, so that's all they care about. Still think it's pretty ridiculous that you're wiping out half your fan base of not really caring about footy too much for the first weekend, but that's okay. That's neither here nor there. So let's chat about some of the matches that we had played over the weekend. First up, on a Thursday night, we had Sydney hosting Melbourne at the SCG in what was a fairly competitive game most of the way. Sydney jumped the blocks. They looked the better team early. They won the first quarter, 21-12. Second quarter was a bit of a stalemate. So Sydney just held on at half-time. Melbourne's inaccuracy in that first half was really costing them. But Sydney, went in 27-20 at half-time. Third quarter was a different sort of story because Sydney kicked inaccurately just to turn it around, and Melbourne kicked very straight. Bailey Fritsch turned it on in that third quarter. I think he kicked 3 in about 5 or so minutes to give Melbourne a bit of a spark, and led to what looked like might have been a game-turning performance from him. But then in the last quarter, Sydney overran him quite comfortably, outscoring them 34-14 in that final quarter, which had a final score of Sydney 12-14-86 to Melbourne 9-10-64. Goal kickers for Sydney, we had McLean and Hayward with 2, Fox, Heaney, Papley, Warner, Florent, McDonald, McNerney and Wicks all with 1. And for Melbourne we had Fritsch with 4, Viney 2, Petrarca, Langdon 1 and Van Rooyen with a accidental goal, which will be probably goal of the week, but a very accidental goal nonetheless. As discussed in last week's potty, Bailey Fritsch loves playing Sydney, kicked 4 again, huge from him. So after one game, he was on top of the Coleman. Look at Bailey go. Best players for Sydney, I had Heaney, Grundy, Blakey, Papley and Warner as the top 5. For Melbourne, I had Viney, Salem, Fritsch, Petrarca and Stephen May as their top 5. In terms of votes, this is going to be what I do each game, is give they're my best 5, who I think were the best 5 players for each team, and then my votes will be more Brownlow reminiscent, 3-2-1, try and predicting who I think was best, but also what the umpires would have seen as best. So in this game, Isaac Heaney was absolutely massive. He dominated contested ball, he dominated clearances, he dominated just the game really. I gave him 3. Brodie Grundy started slow, had a few turnovers early, but his second half really turned it on. And Viney, I think, was Melbourne's best player. He had plenty of it. Did he kick 2? Yeah, he kicked 2 goals. It was a good performance from him. Alrighty, on to game number 2, which was on Friday night at the Gabba. I was about to say the G, it definitely was not at the G, it was at the Gabba. And a tale of 2 halves, if I've ever seen one. Brisbane came out of the gates absolutely flourishing, 7 goals in the first quarter, to lead 44-12. Second quarter was a bit of a even contest. It was Brisbane 15, Carlton 16 to give Brisbane a 31-point lead at half-time. And then third quarter came around and Carlton turned up. Charlie Curnow turned it on. Brisbane's poor kicking cost them in the third quarter. They kicked 1 goal 6, which if they had kicked a few goals, maybe 3 goals, 4 or something in that quarter, it probably would have put Carlton to bed. But instead they kicked 1-6, kept Carlton in it. Carlton even went into the final quarter 1 point leaders, which is unreal after being so far behind. And then the game was back and forward in that last quarter. It could have gone either way. Harry Mackay, with a minute to go, kicked a goal to win the game. Carlton would be absolutely wrapped with this. They, outside of the first quarter, played very good football. Their first quarter was pretty average, but after that they really turned it on. And the opposite can be said for Brisbane, who looked absolutely unreal in that first quarter. After that, it all fell apart pretty quickly. Onto goal kickers, Charlie Cameron, McCarthy and Zorko all kicked 2 for Brisbane. Danaher, Hipwood, Archie, Bailey, McCluggage and Rayner all got 1. And then for Carlton we had Charlie Curnow 4, Harry Mackay with 3, and then singles to Cunningham, Carroll, Cottrell, Cripps, Fogarty and Kennedy. So, best players. Brisbane, Zorko had plenty of it and kicked 2 goals. Harris Andrews' first quarter was unreal. Probably not quite so good after the first quarter, but still pretty decent. Dunkley was good. McInerney was clearly best ruckman on the field. And I think Darcy Wilmot played pretty decent as well. For Carlton, I had Hewitt as their best player, got plenty of the ball, was very good. Curnow obviously kicked 4, including 3 in the third quarter, I believe. Harry Mackay kicked 3, including the game winner, which was huge. Kick straight, he had 1 falter. I think he kicked 3-1. Should have probably been 4 because he probably missed his easiest one, but that's okay from him. Mitch McGovern was good, and Paddy Cripps was solid. He had about 25 touches, did very well. And the votes for this game, I gave Hewitt 3, Zorko 2, and Charlie Curnow 1 vote. As we move on to game number 3 of opening round, we are Saturday afternoon. Gold Coast hosted Richmond up on the Gold Coast, and this was pretty much a domination from almost start to finish for the Suns. First quarter, Gold Coast kicked 5 goals. Second quarter they kicked 6, and they led 74-13 at halftime, which is quite a massive margin. Third quarter, Richmond turned it around and kicked 6 goals to 0 to get them back with a sniff, but then in the final quarter, Gold Coast overran them and ended up winning 14-15, 99-96-60. For Gold Coast, the goal kickers were King, who kicked 5, including, I think, at least 4 in the first half, and looked very good. I think he kicked 4 in the first half. Rose with 3, not Rose, Roses 3, Lukosius 3, Fiorani 2, and Holman 1. And then for Richmond, we had Bolton kick 3, Campbell kick 2, as well as Hopper 2, Bolter and Pickett 1 each. Best players, I think Matt Rowell clearly was the best on field. In fact, I would probably give him best player of the round. He was unreal. 20 clearances, a lot of contested ball, a lot of the football. Obviously, if you have 20 clearances, you're getting a ton of the football. So he was, I think, the best player of the round. King, with his 5 goals, was huge. Took Miller had a ton of the ball as well, was very handy with it. Anderson also got a lot of clearances, was very good. And Powell was their 5th best. For Richmond, I had Short on top. He had plenty of the ball. Hopper, he kicked 2 goals, was good. Vlosten, Naismith, and Shea Bolton, who kicked 3 goals from about 10 touches, was also in their best. For this game, the votes I gave were to Matt Rowell, 3 votes, as I said, best player of the round. Great performance from him. He started on fire. Miller 2 and Anderson 1. I think they're the best 3 midfielders in the game, and that's why I gave them votes. On to the final game of the round. We had GWS versus Collingwood. in Sydney at NG Stadium, and GWS started well. Continued that on most of the game. Collingwood were a bit lacklustre in parts. I think the better team won the day. They won pretty comfortably in the end, 18-6, 114 to 11-16, 82. I think Collingwood will be very disappointed with their poor kicking, and not only their poor kicking, but their poor... Well, yeah, probably mainly their poor kicking, but they went forward a lot. They had a lot more inside 50s. GWS got them on the rebound a lot and kicked very straight and deserved the win. Goal kickers for Giants were Brown kicked 5, Hogan 4, Daniels 4, so that's 13 goals between 3 players there. It's huge. Cadman was very good with 2. Kelly, Green and other Green all got 1 for Collingwood. Mychek kicked 3, Bradley Hill kicked 2, Darcy Cameron kicked 2, and then Mitchell, McQuarrie, Maynard and Dacos all got 1. Best players for GWS were Kelly, had plenty of it, was very good, kicked a goal. Brown obviously kicked 5 goals, including quite a few early. Lockie Whitfield was very good. Daniels kicked 4, and then Tom Green was also very good. For Collingwood, I had Nick Dacos. He had 34 touches, a lot of clearances, a lot of contested football, a number 1 contested player on the ground. I think he was good. He had a few turnovers and missed kicks early, but I think he came into the game very good for Collingwood. Darcy Cameron was huge, best ruckman on the ground. Mychek did okay for them up forward. Josh Dacos was okay. Lipinski started very well early. And the votes I gave for this game, I gave Kelly 3, Whitfield 2 and Dacos 1. And that is the end of opening round. Things to take out of the round, I think Sydney looked very good, as was probably expected. They brought Brodie Grundy in and he showed why straight away. He took the match up with Max Gawn, and after a shaky start, Max Gawn was good in the first half, but that second half Brodie Grundy absolutely dominated and led them to a good victory. Heaney was good as well, as I mentioned previously. Carlton look like they're ready to go this year. That's a huge performance from them to break Brisbane's streak at the Gabba is massive, and could be huge for their season. They have Richmond coming up this week, so if they can get a win there, which you'd expect them to, going from last weekend's games, for them to be 2-0, they'll be very happy, especially if Curnow and Mackay keep kicking goals like they did on the weekend. They can average 7 between them for the season. They're going to be very tough to beat. Gold Coast looked very good. I know I wrote them off a little bit before the start of the season, which looks a pretty dumb thing at the moment, but we'll see how they go for the rest of the year. Richmond looked pretty poor, to be honest, but we'll see what happens with them going forward. They've obviously got a few big names in Lynch, Dustin Martin and Nankervis to come back in, so you'd expect them to improve from where they were on the weekend. And then GWS and Collingwood. GWS would have to be in the top couple premiership favourites at the moment. It's probably them and Carlton. I know it's only one game, but they're probably 2 of the better teams performance-wise. Collingwood, I don't think you can write them off just yet. They obviously had a lot of inside 50s. They just did not kick straight. They weren't the best team on the day and they paid the price, but we'll see what they can do next week. They've got Sydney, which will be a huge game down in Melbourne for both teams. Sydney will want to prove that they are the real deal, and Collingwood will want to be bouncing back. In regards to my tips, I went 2-2 from the podcast tips. I did end up changing from Gold Coast to Richmond, to Gold Coast after the potty was released, but I did get the Sydney game right. I got Brisbane wrong. I don't think most people would. I'm happy with getting that one wrong. I did change to Gold Coast, but on the pod it listed as 2-2, and I tipped Collingwood, which looks like a bad tip, and probably was in the end. But 2-2 isn't too bad, and we move on going forward. So, plan for this week is just a short episode today, being that there was only 4 games on the weekend. There's not a huge amount else to talk about, but going forward, we will have another episode released on Thursday, which will be a preview of round 1, where the other 10 teams finally get a start. Obviously, these 8 teams will also be involved in round 1. So that will be released on Thursday. In that, or in the coming days, I'll also be releasing my team of the week for opening round. I'm going to be doing that each week. It will be released on Twitter, Instagram, at All Aussie Rules, so check me out those places. I'll also mention it during the podcast on Thursday. I'll probably put up a graphic over this side with my team of the week, so it's not quite ready yet, but we'll definitely have it up by Thursday's episode. Other than that, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back, as I said, on Thursday for preview of round 1. Back again Monday next week for a recap of round 1. Footy season's back. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you share with all your friends, and I'll catch us on the next one.